All right. My name is Tim Hogan. I'm here in Florida on vacation, and it's the day before Christmas, as you just found out. And my brother's good friend wants his motor checked out, so we decided we had some free time to do that. So first thing we're going to do on our inspection sheet, which we'll show you, is compression. Even on the starboard side, on the port, and that's how you label them. Inspection sheet. Okay, crank it over. Good. We have 100 pounds. All you do is you wait till the needle stops going up. You have number one. That's standard. That's what they look like. Number two is exactly the same. Number three looks exactly the same. Same color. There's carbon on it, and it's been burning correctly. So this is really good that these are used spark plugs in this motor because it gives us a chance to inspect them. If they were brand new, we couldn't do it. There is number four. 5 and number 6. So they all look nice and even. We can also, if we did get a bad reading on compression, we could go, oh, what number was that? It had bad compression. It's number 5. And we check to see if it corresponded with an ugly looking spark plug. First thing on the list is check the steering tilt tube, which is this tube right here. If you can get in there. Customer, James already has power steering hooked up to it, and it is stainless tube. But what you want to look for is if this is really corroded, you're going to have steering problems. On these newer motors, which is 99, they put in stainless on the bigger motors. You don't have any problems with a stainless steel tilt tube. And it's also a nice upgrade you can do if you do have a steel tilt tube, because they're very problematic. But what we want to do, because a very common failure on outboard motors used especially in salt water, is power trim. So what we do is we trim the motor up. This is your power trim, and it's called tilt and trim. These are the tilt rods. The trim rods. This is the tilt rod. This is for underway. You need extra power underway because this is putting 225 pounds of horsepower against the boat. It needs the extra strength. You check the zinc down here, and you notice there is no zinc. Someone removed it, intended to put a new one on it, forgot it, and so there needs to be on this particular motor. It's carbureted, 3-liter Merc, 1999. It takes a zinc right here, and it keeps this power trim from rotting out, and that's a very common problem. So what you do, you check here. See, somebody has maintained this well. It's got grease on the trim rods. That's good. That's what somebody's supposed to do for off-season storage. Somebody on this one has taped over the decal because they wanted to do a nice paint job, right, because they were selling it. But this looks in really good shape. There's no evidence of power trim fluid, which is basically like ATF fluid. There's no evidence of anything leaking. Nothing's wet under here. So this is in great shape. This unit new is, I believe, around $2,000. And if you have to pay a marine technician to replace it, it can run another $500-600 bucks. So good thing to take care of. If you trailer the boat, wash it off with fresh water every time if you're using it in salt water. We got tilt fluid. You can check the level of the tilt fluid. Easy way to tell this tilt level is in great shape because it's got a nice solid noise to it. If the trim motor runs faster than that and doesn't move slowly, you're probably low on trim fluid. But every trim unit basically has a fill spot. You look in there, you make sure the fluid level is even. You just fill it till it overflows. You can see there's some fluid on there, so good sign. If it's low, you need to fill it up, and usually it's low because it's leaking. Find the leak, repair it. It might be just low. Another thing you need to do is carry power trim fluid with you on the boat, because if you're stuck on an island somewhere and you trim it up and it won't go down, you got a problem. All trim units are also equipped with manual override in case your trim fails. Again, when you're on an island or something like that, you just loosen it, and it usually trims down on its own. There you go. two reasons for doing that. You check to make sure your emergency trim override works, because usually they get frozen in. This, again, as I said, the trim unit's in great shape, so that one works terrific. So it's a good thing to know. So another thing you got to carry with you, flathead screwdriver on the boat, because it sucks to be stuck on the water because your power trim does not work. Another thing you want to check is motor mounts down here. They rot out, and what you do is you just grab onto the lower unit, you check. These mounts sometimes rot out, and when you do that, there'll be play. And if there's play in those mounts, they're about ready to break. Very, very expensive repair. At that point, it might be time to think about another motor or get a price on fixing it. It's the kind of problem that happens progressively, so you'll see it happen. But this one's in good shape. But these are made of those steels, so they rot out. There's only one way to get it off, and that's by destroying the propeller. And a propeller like this, I think, would run about $500-600. And all you gotta do is take it off, put it on every year. And it doesn't happen. So. And also, an added benefit, fish line can get on the prop shaft and destroy that seal. Every time you take it off, you inspect for fish line. So now we're ready to put it back on, and we'll be back to our next step. Normally we drain all the gear, lube, and inspect it, but we're in Florida and we didn't bring a bucket of oil or a way to refill it. So we're in the field, I guess, with not many tools. But what we can do is, since we don't want a lot of lube to come out, we're going to take the top one off. And quick note about filling a lower unit. You do fill it from the bottom, the drain screw there, and they both have gaskets on them, because there's the vent and there's the fill. And if there's no gasket, this will be sunken in quite a bit more than the other. So you always look around here for any oil leakage that you have that drain gasket. It should be replaced every time you drain the gear lube, which is about every season. Your season depends on where you are in the country, I guess. But what we can do while we're here with limited tools is we can take the vent off. And you didn't hear it on the video, but there was a little bit of pressure in there, and I could hear it release a little bit. And we've been cranking this over for the compression test, so we do see fairly clean oil on here. And the nice thing is, it has some time on it. It should be changed, but it's nice to see some time on it, because we know the customer, the prior owner, or somebody didn't just change it. If it was brand new, it couldn't tell us anything. So, and if you notice, it was a dark black. If any water gets mixed in it, it gets milky. It looks like milk. So, it looked good. So, with limited resources, we inspected this lower unit. We decided to drain the gear loop, so we were going to pull the drain first. There you go. This is overdue for a change. Gear loop starts to stink when it's old, and that's pretty stinky. So it's black. Should be synthetic. Should be like green. You notice when I take the vent, it starts to really pour out. Very good sign. There's no metal filings. If it looks metallic, it's pieces of gear inside the lower unit. That somebody hit a rock or somebody assembled the lower unit incorrectly, and it's probably got a problem down the road. Lower units can take a long time to fail when they have a problem, so you have to run the motor, ran to the local store, got some synthetic gear lube, you thread it into the bottom, you leave your vent out. Washers are in good shape. There's no kink in the hose. And yet another advantage of being in Florida. Tried to do this in Connecticut in December, and this oil does not like to pump into the lower unit, so you have to leave your oil inside. When you're ready to put the oil in the lower unit, you run outside, do it, put the oil back inside. Other than that, Connecticut's better. No. You just pump it out until it comes out of there. Okay, we've filled the gear case. See the lube is coming out the top screw. And this is what we say is counterintuitive. You actually fill it from the bottom. You put this is called the vent screw. You tighten it up good and tight. It creates an airlock because this is a sealed gear case. They all are. Tighten it up good. Usually use a bigger screwdriver than that, but this is what we got. Carefully take this off. Make sure you don't remove that gasket we keep talking about. The gasket stayed right in there. A little bit leaking out is fine. Make sure it doesn't cross thread. Start by hand. Tighten it up. Alright, it's good. Wipe off all the oil and we're good to go. Before we start this into the engine, it's mainly designed if you have to start it with a rope. If you have a dead battery, you can, let's say in your manual, pump the ball, hold that down, throw fuel in the engine. We used to call it choking the engine, but it's really enriching, and you pull it over. What I like about it is the motor's really hard starting, and my customer says it's hard starting. I said, well, let's try this. I push the button. That's the manual override for the enricher, and if it starts right up, I know we have a problem with the choke on the motor, the electric part of it. So the cylinder will do all 6 while we're running it. This is actually more helpful at high end, but not exactly easy to do. What are you doing? 5,000 RPM. Okay, start it up. 30 degrees. It's kind of difficult. You have to keep the gun the exact distance away from the spark plug. You want to aim to the base of the plug right here. That gives you a reading of the temperature actually of the combustion chamber, which is what you want to know. Outside on the water jacket doesn't tell you much because there's water in there. So that was a healthy test. As I said, all motors fail at over 3,000 RPM. So the best test is at over 4,000 RPM. It's not easy to do. It's not. One really easy thing to do, and you can do this every time you go out. If you have the cover off, pump the ball till it's hard. This is the primer ball. Most motors have it. Look for leaks down the throttles, carburetor holes. No fuel coming out. That's good. No fuel coming out of any fuel lines on this side. You just pump it till it's hard. Make sure no fuel's coming out anywhere. Not only does it make the motor run bad, but it's really dangerous. Fuel on a motor can catch on fire. Okay, we're going to start it up, and we're going to show you how the fuel goes in the engine at high speed. Very important. If you don't have fuel in one of these carburetor throats, you will lean out one cylinder, and the motor will die, and you won't know. So this quick trick is really easy to do. Most people don't know how to do it. We're going to show you on this video. So we're ready to start it up.